In the land of gods and golden tombs, where every breath was a prayer and every shadow was divine, being a woman of the gods might sound like the highest honor. But in ancient Egypt, holiness came at a price far greater than sin. Because to be a priestess was to live for the dead and die for the living. This is the untold story of Neferet, the silent servant of Isis, whose faith became her prison, and her truth was buried with the gods themselves. You're watching Mystic Legacy Vault, where history bleeds through the sands of time. Her name was Neferet, born in Thebes, daughter of a humble scribe. At 12, she was chosen by the temple of Isis, a gift from the goddess, they said. Her family cried as the priests led her away. The first thing they took was her name, the second, her freedom. Inside the temple, she learned to pray, to chant, to serve. Every movement had meaning, every breath a rule. She wasn't allowed to laugh. She wasn't allowed to dream. She wasn't even allowed to think freely. In Egypt, the gods demanded purity, but what they truly wanted was control. Each dawn began with ice-cold water poured over her skin, the cleansing of the soul. Then came the hymns, endless hours of chanting before statues that never answered. The temple smelled of incense and gold, but its silence was heavier than stone. She lived among marble pillars and divine promises, yet her heart starved for something mortal. A touch, a laugh, a life beyond the gods. But the walls had ears, the gods had spies, and a single doubt could mean disappearance. Neferet rose through the ranks, from acolyte to keeper of rituals. Her hands prepared the oils that preserved kings. Her voice sang the prayers that opened the gates of eternity. She saw how the mighty were buried in gold, but how their servants were sealed alive beside them. So the Pharaoh may never walk alone, they said. But Neferet saw the truth. The afterlife wasn't a gift. It was another cage. One night she wandered where no priestess dared. Deep beneath the temple, behind the mummifier's halls, she found scrolls sealed under centuries of dust. They spoke of power, not from the gods, but from men who pretended to be gods. They wrote laws in the names of deities, built fear into faith, and called it divine order. For the first time, Neferet prayed, not for mercy, but for truth. The next morning, she stood before the high priest, the same man who had once called her chosen. "If the gods are pure," she whispered, "why do they demand lies?" His answer was final, because truth belongs only to the dead. That night, Neferet's name vanished from the temple rolls. Her robes were burned, her chambers given to another. To the living, she never existed. Days later, she was summoned to bless a new tomb. "The goddess requires your voice once last," they said. When the doors closed, she understood. The ritual was not for the dead. It was for her. As the air thinned and the torches died, Neferet carved one final line into the stone wall. I served the gods of men, not the gods of heaven. Then, silence. The kind of silence that lasts for thousands of years. Centuries turned to dust, the temples fell, the Nile changed its path. And then one day, in the ruins of Thebes, an archaeologist brushed sand off an ancient wall and found her words. Just 7 symbols carved by trembling hands, enough to remind us that even silence can survive eternity. This was Mystic Legacy Vault, where the dead still whisper and history finally speaks. Subscribe if you dare to remember what time tried to forget.